Hello, my name is Ana Dorre, and I'm going to talk about slavery and its relation with the American poet Walt Whitman. Slavery is a system in which human beings are treated as a property or chattel, in the sense that they are bought and sold for economic benefits and services. Slaves cannot make their own decisions or protest. They are almost always treated under subhuman conditions, denying them the right to a fair deal, to remuneration for their work, or even to some of the fundamental rights, such as the right to education, clothing, and free expression. During the European conquest of the Americas, slavery reached its peak. Europeans needed cheap labor in order to finalize its expansion plan. At first, they enslaved Aboriginal population, forcing the native Indians to work at large farms and mines in the colonies. However, most of them died from European diseases, so they brought slaves from Africa. Why was Africa vulnerable to the slave trade? Because of its sailing routes, of the availability of people, there was a high birth rate, and because of their people skills. The British slave trade was known as the triangular trade because of the route it took. Ships departed from the British ports with goods such as clothes and guns. These goods were exchanged with African chiefs for slaves. The slave ships then carried their cargo across the Atlantic to the Americas and the Caribbean. There, the traders sold the slaves at public auctions, and with the money they bought sugar, tobacco, rum, and cotton. Finally, they returned to Britain and sold these goods at huge profits. Walt Whitman was an American poet, essayist, and journalist. He was considered a humanistic, believing that the value of human beings held primacy over established practices, faiths, and doctrines. He was against slavery, and he wrote in the voice of the oppressed. This opposition to slavery is demonstrated in his collection of poetry, Leaves of Grass, by the way in which he consistently includes African Americans in his vision of an ideal multiracial republic. He depicts them with great depth and sensitivity. Leaves of Grass portrays both the suffering and the dignity of African Americans, seen in the present as victims of slavery, but envisioned in the future as partners with whites in an egalitarian democracy. In The Hounded Slave, an episode from Song of Myself, the speaker not only sympathizes with, but in fact identifies with, the fugitive slave. I am the hounded slave. I wince at the beat of the dogs. Whitman's change of the pronoun from he to I signals a central moment in the poem, as the speaker merges his identity with others in the world. I do not ask the wounded person how he feels. I myself become the wounded person. Whitman's poetry captures a faith in the dignity and humanity of African Americans and in their rightful place as free and equal citizens of the United States.